Part 3. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 21. I went to the front villa along the path in the garden. The gorgeous and magnificent European-style villas are shining in the sun, the columns are more white, the vegetation is more green, and the stone statues in the fountain are dripping water from their mouths. Everything looks so elegant. This is a place where it is easy to generate romantic feelings. When she first moved in, she thought she would find happiness here, but who knew, she lost her life. I stood in front of the door. The summer morning in the morning cast a layer of soft golden light on her body. Her eyes like black gemstones seemed to be absorbed in the splendor, sparkling with fragments. She squinted her eyes and smiled, with a hint of cunning in her agility. Good estimate. Everyone was eating in the dining room now, and she walked from the stairs in the living room to the second floor without meeting a single person along the way. I held the doorknob, turned it lightly, and walked into her and Zhenning's room. The room was slightly different than remembered. The things that once belonged to her have been put away after her death, and there is an extra posthumous photo on the dressing table. I was not in the mood to remember. As soon as she entered the room, she saw the storage box next to the cabinet, in which her work documents were neatly placed. A prosecutor's badge, several unprocessed indictments, pending trial minutes, meeting minutes, and her laptop. Although the computer is occasionally used at work, it remains her personal property. Couldn't think of the reason why Xiao Jingjia wanted to take the laptop away, and there was no time for her to think about it. In the shortest time, she made the safest decision. Quickly register a new mailbox, pack and send the contents of the notebook hard drive to the mailbox, and then format the computer. Yes, clear all. No matter what Xiao Jingjia wants to get, she will never get her wish. There are a lot of cases stored in the computer, because they are all documents and pictures, so the sending is very fast, but it takes a long time to format. I locked the door and stared at the slow progress bar on the screen wholeheartedly. She wasn't panicking at all. It doesn't matter even if Zhenning returns to the room suddenly at this time, because he will find that the door cannot be opened, and then he will go to the servant to get a spare key, and she can just get out at that time. The progress bar on the screen has reached 100%, and the formatting is complete. Zhenning hasn't come back yet. I put the computer back to its original position and quickly left the room. However, this time, her good luck seemed to have run out. She had just taken 2 steps when she heard the sound of the door lock in the front room being turned. It's Ling's room. She actually forgot about Ling. Ling's lip was injured, and she went to the hospital to get 4 stitches. Although the doctor repeatedly promised that there would be no scars, but for a little girl who loves beauty, this is definitely a very serious disfigurement. Ling might not go out to see anyone for a few days, so how could he go downstairs to have breakfast like everyone else? This moment came too fast and too suddenly. I didn't have time to think about it. She subconsciously opened the door closest to her, and dodged in. The room was pitch black. At the same time, Ling complained from outside. It's all because of that damned music. Dad, when are you coming back? I can't even speak in pain. She was on the phone, her voice was intermittent, and she responded from time to time, well, the doctor said that she will definitely recover before school starts. Dad, can't you drive her away? Our family is not an orphanage, why should we help others raise her child? I can't even invite my classmates to play at home, it's too embarrassing. The sound faded away and gradually disappeared. I breathed a sigh of relief. She turned around to leave, but found that her feet were caught by something and she couldn't move. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 22. Can't see anything in the dark. I frowned suspiciously, bent over to touch it, and touched something cool and slippery. She didn't dare to vent her breath, and continued to touch the thing with concentration. It was thick and long, smooth, soft. The thing suddenly moved. Musie's legs went limp in an instant, and she fell to the ground. Damn it! It's a snake. Why would someone keep snakes in their room? The slippery and wet feeling made Muse's scalp tingle. The hairs all over her body stood up. This is no ordinary snake, this is a boa constrictor. Now it is slowly climbing up her calf. Muse's body was stiff, she bit her lip and tried to control her instinct to scream loudly. She stretched out her hand a little bit by bit, and moved it away. The movements are extremely gentle and slow. As a result, just as the snake's tail was pulled away, the snake's head entangled again, and Musie almost cried. She has just been reborn, is she about to be bitten to death by a snake? Musie could only continue to sit on the ground without moving, hoping that the python would leave on its own. The snake walked slowly on her body, hissing from time to time, so frightened that she even held her breath. Until the last part of the boa constrictor's body slipped past him, Musie couldn't stand it anymore, her back pressed against the wall, and she started to back away. She was afraid to startle the big monster again, so she backed away very gently, but her heart was beating violently. The room was dark and silent, and the air conditioner was cold and humid. Her eyes couldn't see clearly in the dark, and she could only vaguely make out the outline of the python entrenched. What a big snake! Looking at the shadow in the dark, Musie couldn't help but sigh with emotion. At this time, the boa constrictor seemed to smell her, and came here with a message. Musie was so frightened that her wits flew out of her wits. She hurriedly took a few steps back, but suddenly there was nothing behind her. She lost her center of gravity and fell backwards onto the bed with a bang. At that moment, she smelled a faint smell of tobacco mixed with a cold masculine breath. Musie closed her eyes, and with lightning flashes in her mind, she immediately guessed who the owner of the room was. There are only 3 men in the family. Musenning doesn't have this habit, and Murongxian won't get up so late, so only Murongcheng. She should have thought of it earlier. But now I can't take care of these, because there is a big boa constrictor staring at him under the bed. Musie quickly got into the quilt, shrank her head and feet and covered herself tightly. Then curled up on the bed and didn't dare to move. The man beside him woke up as early as the moment Musie fell onto the bed. He was stunned for a moment, propped up his arms, and looked at the shivering bump on the bed in the dark. Afraid of being chased away by him, Musie clutched the quilt tightly and reported her family name inside. "Brother, it's me." Surprise flashed across Murongcheng's eyes. He looked at it silently for a while, frowned slightly, turned around to turn on the bedside lamp, and asked lightly, "Why did you run into my bed? Come down." The raised quilt trembled, and half of Musie's head protruded from it. Her wet eyes were as clear as springs, shining brightly in the warm orange light, like a frightened deer in the forest, clueless and charming. Murongcheng couldn't help but paused for breath. "Brother." Musie pulled the quilt tightly, and said in a pitiful tone, "Can you please remove it first?" Murongcheng followed her line of sight and found the python lounging on the ground. He raised the corners of his lips, a pair of black eyes that seemed to be smiling but not smiling. "Isn't Sissy your pet? You won't recognize him so soon. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life. Shao, your wife is born again." Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 23. Sis. Pet. Musie stared blankly at Murongcheng for a long time before realizing that he was talking about the original Musie. As a rebellious and withdrawn dark girl, isn't it normal to keep a python as a pet? Muzi I huddled under Murong Cheng's quilt, not intending to come out at all. She laughed dryly and said, "Really, hee, I haven't seen you for a while, and I don't even recognize her. The change of the snake is nothing more than length, how could it not be recognized? And, even if you really didn't recognize him, you wouldn't be afraid of being like this." Murong Cheng narrowed his deep cold eyes slightly, and his eyes stayed on her for a long time. His younger sister, since she was discharged from the hospital, has changed really amazingly. Muzi I was terrified by him, and tried to force out an innocent smile. "Brother." Murong Cheng's thin lips were raised lightly, and the smile on his handsome face was evil and charming. Muzi I's nerves were tense, she always felt that Murong Cheng looked malicious. She was ringing the alarm, but Murong Cheng got out of bed unhurriedly. Once out of Murong Cheng's sight, Muzi I felt much more relaxed. "Sisi was not taken care of when you were in the hospital. Mom asked me to take care of you for a while." Murong Cheng seemed to be chatting with her. He reached out to pick up the boa constrictor from the ground, and handed it to Muzi I while holding the snake's head. "Would you like me, take it back?" Muzi I retracted into the quilt with a whoosh. "No need," she hid inside and gritted her teeth. He could clearly see that she was afraid, and even threatened her with a snake on purpose. He really had bad intentions. Muzi I vaguely heard Murong Cheng's low laughter from under the quilt, and felt that this man was vicious and a jerk. "Put the snake back. It's dark in the room, if you step on it, it will hurt," she shouted. Murong Cheng stared at the ball on the bed with burning eyes, and the smile on the corner of his lips widened, with a bit of evil spirit. "Small things are quite good at finding reasons. Why did you become so timid when you came out of the hospital?" Murong Cheng put the snake back into the terrarium, walked back, and patted her lightly through the quilt. "Come out." Muzi I blushed immediately. He just happened to slap her ass. She blushed and came out of the quilt in embarrassment. The boa constrictor on the floor was gone, so she climbed out of bed in peace. "Is there any girl who is not afraid of snakes? I used to want to raise them just out of curiosity, but now I'm not, so I'd better leave them to my brother." Muzi I lowered her head, and said calmly while arranging her messy hair. After she finished speaking, she didn't hear Murong Cheng's response after a while. Muzi I felt strange, turned her head and looked back. Seeing this, she immediately froze in place. Murong Cheng leaned against the bedside cabinet, staring at her silently. "He's naked." "No, he's not completely naked, at least he's wearing a pair of boxer briefs." She couldn't help but blush even though she knew no one would wear much clothes to sleep. She wanted to move her eyes away, but felt that doing so would make the scene more embarrassing. They were brother and sister. If she overreacted, it would look abnormal. Muzi I forced herself to calmly look at Murong Cheng in front of her. Strong abdominal muscles, sexy mermaid lines, slightly bent arms supporting the bedside cabinet at will, lazy but not decadent. He was born handsome, with a cold and arrogant temperament, and a very strong body, with beautiful muscle lines, without the rude feeling of swollen muscles. Muzi I had to admit that although this guy was a jerk, his figure was amazing. Murong Cheng just looked at her so quietly, his eyes were deep and silent, showing strangeness. Muzi I's heart skipped a beat twice, feeling a little flustered for no reason. "Mom asked me to come over." Because of nervousness, Muzi I stammered, "Let me call you, go over to have breakfast, after you wash up, go quickly." She hastily explained why she was here and couldn't wait to leave. When she walked to the door, the man behind her called out to her. "Suzy I. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again." Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 24. If the content of the chapters cannot be connected, you can remove the bookshelf, join again. I really strongly recommend that you reread the previous article. Oh, many small settings have been changed. As for the effect after I painstakingly edited it, it's okay, I think it's better than the original one, but I won't change the text again, it's too troublesome. It's not as easy as rewriting directly. Suzy I. Just two simple words, but Muzi I was so shocked that she almost lost her wits. She knew that she was definitely different from the original music. She didn't understand the original owner's temperament and habits at all. No matter how she tried to conceal it, she would definitely be seen as different. Even so, she never worried about it. Because Muzi I is young, any changes can be explained by the sentence "grow up and become sensible." What's more, adolescent girls are fickle. However, she never expected that Murong Chen would directly use the name Suzy I to test her. What is he thinking? But any normal person would never think of such absurd things as resurrection from a dead body. Murong Chen simply called her by her name, but Muse's mind quickly ran through all kinds of emergency measures. The memory of his brain was full, and he almost exploded. The room was eerily quiet. She stagnated for a long time, and finally turned around slowly. Her eyes were clear and simple, with a look of panic. "Brother." Muse's voice was soft and trembling. "Why did you suddenly call sister-in-law San's name? My sister-in-law just passed her first 7 days, and the house is gloomy, so don't scare me." She tried her best to play a timid and ignorant little girl. Murong Chen looked at her for a while, then curled up his thin lips evilly, and said in a low voice jokingly, "Did I call her? I was calling your name just now, Muzi I, you misheard." "Did I hear wrong?" Muzi I was stunned for a moment, and then the anger in his chest surged. She felt that Murong Chen was clearly playing tricks on her. Even if Azusa and Zi have the same pronunciation, the two names are very different. Okay. How could you hear me wrong? But she still can't reveal her identity. Muzi I pretended to be scared, but she was gnashing her teeth in her heart. She rubbed her arms around her arms, and said deliberately, "Oh, so I heard it wrong, but brother, you live next to the third brother and the third sister-in-law, will you be afraid when you sleep at night? What if the third sister-in-law comes back to find the third sister-in-law? Brother, I went to the wrong door." As he said that, he shivered in a serious way, and then said, "Thinking about it makes me panic, the place is very gloomy, I'd better go first. Brother, don't forget to go have breakfast." She opened the door and walked out. Her breath was a little unsteady because of her upset. This time, Murong Chen didn't call her back. After leaving Murong Chen's room, Muzi I felt that she was alive again, feeling relaxed. She thought, what she said was not wrong, that room was really eerie, and there was no light at all in broad daylight. When Muzi I went downstairs, she met Muzening, who had finished her breakfast. She hurried away with her head down, passing him by, not wanting to show her presence. Who knew today would be particularly evil? One or two are bothering her. Zizi Muzening suddenly stopped her. Muzi I, who was going down the stairs, had a weak leg and almost fell down. In the past, Muzening would often call her Zi in an affectionate and soft voice. After Muzening finished shouting, he probably realized that the pronunciation of the two names was the same, and he was stunned for a moment. Muzi I clutched the railing tightly, lowered her head and didn't make a sound. Out of politeness, she should call him third brother, and it is best to add good morning. But facing the man in front of her, her throat seemed to be strangled, the blood in her whole body was congealed, she couldn't make a sound, and her breathing was not smooth. I really hate it. The thought of him saying he loves her while maintaining that relationship with Xiao Jingjia on the other hand, it's disgusting. Muzi I felt sick. She silently stepped back to the next level, keeping a distance from Muzening. Muzening said, "Yesterday, Xiaoling was seriously hurt. Find an opportunity to apologize to her. You are not young, so don't be bored at home all the time. You should find a school and study hard." Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HhandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 25. This is a very common saying. As an elder, it is extremely normal to advise the juniors in the family not to waste their youth and waste their time when they are young, but to read more and enrich themselves, no matter which family they are placed in. But such a situation made Musa feel extremely harsh and ironic. She hasn't asked him to kneel down to make atonement, but he asked her to apologize to others. How ridiculous! Musa raised her head expressionlessly, her deep black eyes seemed to be stained with frost, extremely cold. Musenning was intimidated by her cold and sharp eyes, and stood there in a daze. However, in just a moment, Musa withdrew her gaze, lowered her eyes and hurriedly left the stairs. Musenning looked at Musa's leaving back, feeling very weird. He didn't understand, how could a teenage girl have such aggressive eyes? As if, full of resentment. Maybe he was wrong. Musa returned to the garden mansion. The breakfast on the table was already cold. Bai Wei stared at her face nervously. Zizi, have you quarreled with your brother again? Musa was taken aback by her question. She raised her hand to touch her face and understood. Because her face was too ugly, Bai Wei misunderstood that she and Murong Cheng had quarreled. Ever since they were discharged from the hospital, the siblings seemed to have been at odds with each other, bickering frequently. No wonder Bai Wei thought so. No, Musa smiled, not wanting Bai Wei to see the clue. It was just when I went to wake my brother up, I was scared by a snake. Mom, I think Sisi is taken care of by my brother very well, so I will continue let him keep it. She couldn't bear this kind of pet anyway. Bai Wei raised her eyebrows when she heard this, and said, although it's a pet snake, it's better to stay away from it. What if I get bitten? When that child Mu Ling came over, I felt that she was uneasy and kind. If there is such a thing again, you must tell Mom, you know. Musa was taken aback by Bai Wei's words. Isn't that boa constrictor her pet? What's the matter with Guan Muling? Musa faintly felt something bad. She forced a smile, and tentatively said, really, look at my memory, I can't remember clearly. I thought Sisi was my brother's pet. It happened several years ago, so it's no wonder you can't remember clearly. Don't accept anything Mu Ling wants to give you in the future. That child has a bad heart. Bai Wei casually mentioned a few words, without any intention of talking in detail. She picked up the cold breakfast on the table and said, I'll warm it up, it will be ready soon, just wait for a while. Although Musa still didn't understand what the snake was about, but Bai Wei's words several years ago alone were enough to conclude that Murong Chen was cheating on her. This bastard! How to test her around the corner? He also said that she moved there to raise the snake before she was hospitalized. How dare he have raised it for several years? He must be suspicious. Damn it! She has only been his sister for 2 days, is she going to reveal her secrets so soon? Musa bit her lip, followed Bai Wei to the kitchen resolutely, chased after Cheap Mom and continued to ask, Mom, tell me, Mu Ling gave me that snake? Why did she give me this? Bai Wei turned her head and gave her a strange look. You really don't remember anything? Musa bit the bullet and replied, I only remember a little. You can tell me about it. There's nothing to talk about. Bai Wei frowned, not wanting to recall the past. Mu Ling got a snake from outside to tease you, and scared you to faint. She was afraid of being scolded by adults afterwards. Just say the snake was a gift for you. As she spoke, her expression gradually became sad and bitter. It's indeed a docile pet snake, but, how can we have the courage to keep that kind of thing? It's pitiful to throw it away. It's a life anyway, and I'm afraid of those in the Mu family. Make trouble for us again, and finally ask your brother to raise him. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 26. In fact, there are many things that Bai Wei has skipped over. For example, when Mu Ling stuffed the snake into Mu Zi's skirt, the little girl was so frightened that she collapsed, lost control of herself in full view, and suffered all kinds of ridicule and sarcasm. For another example, Mrs. Mu favored Mu Ling, reprimanded Mu Zi indiscriminately for embarrassment, and forced her to accept the so-called gift. Some hurts are unforgettable. If her daughter has forgotten, Bai Wei doesn't want to mention it again. During that time, she had a very difficult time with a pair of children. Mr. Mu passed away, and Mrs. Mu was the head of the Mu family. The life under the fence made Mu Zi introverted and sensitive, and the bullying by the sisters of the Mu family made things worse. After that incident, Mu Zi no longer had a smile on her face. Bai Wei tried to escape countless times. But because of her weakness, she compromised again and again. She always thought that if she endured it, she would be fine, and if she endured it, she would pass, and before she knew it, it was today. She felt guilty towards Mu Zi, and felt that if it wasn't for her own incompetence, her daughter wouldn't be what she is today. Mu Zi has no memory of the original owner. After listening to Bai Wei's narration, in addition to feeling disgusted with the sisters of the Mu family, she was even more frightened towards Murongcheng. What exactly does Murongcheng want to do? The most puzzling thing is, how did he recognize her? Even if she felt that something was wrong with her sister, she wouldn't be able to tell at a glance that the core inside was Su Zi. Mu Zi feels very broken now. She didn't avenge her big revenge, and being caught by someone so quickly, she couldn't be happy. Thinking of Murongcheng's existence like a ticking time bomb, he was worried and depressed. Mu Zi looked dispirited. Bai Wei thought she was recalling the past of being bullied when she was a child, so she patted her on the back lightly with special pity. There were footsteps outside. Someone is coming. Mu Zi helped Bai Wei bring out the hot breakfast, and when she looked up, she saw Murongcheng lazily leaning on a chair, looking like he was waiting for breakfast. His appearance is too good. Even with such a lazy posture, he looks suave, unrestrained, cold, and handsome. Even if he is a dude, he must be the most handsome and extraordinary among the dudes. Mu Zi didn't expect that he would really come over for breakfast. Her eyes widened suddenly. She was extremely surprised. Bai Wei showed a happy smile. It is true that their family has not had breakfast together for a long time. I ate wonton noodles today. It looks good. Murongcheng glanced at those meals. His expression seemed natural, without any abnormality. Mu Zi's heart pounded. She gritted her teeth secretly, thinking, if Murongcheng really wanted to expose her, she would deny it to the death. Anyway, he doesn't have any substantive evidence. As long as she doesn't admit it, he can't do anything to her at all. Mu Zi sat down to have breakfast, deliberately separated a seat from him. She decided to keep a low profile. At least where there is Murongcheng, you must keep a low profile. Huh, it's stuffed with shrimp meat. Murongcheng took a spoon and casually picked up the soup in the bowl. Doesn't Zizi really hate eating shrimp? Mu Zi suddenly felt like food was stuck in her throat. Neither pharynx nor spit. Until she saw Bai Wei on the opposite side showing a confused expression. Doesn't Zizi like shrimp? Mu Ziru was enlightened. Bai Wei loves her children so much. If she knew that Mu Zi doesn't eat shrimp, she would definitely not serve this bowl of wonton noodles. Murongcheng is playing tricks on her again. There's no end to testing, right? Muse's heart. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 27. Murongcheng didn't feel embarrassed at all. With a calm expression, he said casually, oh, maybe I remembered it wrong. Misremembered. If you remember a sentence wrong, do you know that my heart almost jumped out of fright? Musa frowningly pawed at her bowl, her tense fingers wished she could break the spoon in her hand. She wanted to grab a piece of horseshoe cake, and also wanted to try egg skin pancakes, but Murong Cheng's eyes followed her everywhere, and she had to be scruples. What if he cheated on her again? Maybe she could ignore him completely and eat whatever she wanted. But what if? In case there were really foods that Musa never touched in these breakfasts, how would she explain it? Lying is easy, but it is very difficult to lie again and again. Musa doesn't want to cause trouble for herself. She honestly eats wonton noodles and never touches other foods. Murong Cheng seemed to see through her thoughts, his thin lips slightly raised, and his black eyes, which seemed to be half smiles, contained a playful smile, making him look particularly hateful. Musa is angry. Bai Wei was in a good mood. She felt especially gratified that her children could have breakfast at the same table in harmony. As for the awkwardness on Musa's face, Bai Wei just took it as her daughter's shyness. The three chatted while eating, and most of the time was Bai Wei's concern for her children as a mother. When talking about Murong Cheng's recent situation, Bai Wei couldn't help but start talking again. We should find a job, we can't go on like this forever. If we don't know what to do, we can find a training institution and learn something first. I've discussed it with a few friends, and I plan to start a company soon, Murong Cheng replied casually, lingering on Musa from the corner of his eye. Start a company? Bai Wei was surprised. Her son, who had never been in business, suddenly said that he wanted to start a company, and she felt uneasy. Specifically, what kind of company is it? Bai Wei looked at her son nervously, worried that he would be tricked into illegal activities by the gangsters outside. Murong Cheng replied casually, do everything. He was still staring at Musa. Musa pretended to be cowardly, buried her head in her food, and completely resisted making eye contact with him. With wantonness in Murong Cheng's eyes, he stretched out his legs to touch her under the table. Musa suddenly jumped up from her seat. She pushed away the chair and took a few steps back, her face turned completely pale. What's wrong? Bai Wei was taken aback. Musa hesitated to speak, his eyes drifted, and it took him a long time to hold back a sentence. I saw a mouse, I was frightened. She couldn't say that Murong Cheng touched her just now, which made her reflexively think that she was entangled by a snake again. The feeling of being entangled and crawling around the ankle seems to be still there, it's really scalp numbing. Is there a mouse? Bai Wei became nervous, stood up and looked around. Where is it? Bai Wei is very afraid of creatures like mice and cockroaches. She finds them both scary and a health hazard. Maybe he ran outside. Musa looked stiff, and pushed the chair back to its original position in embarrassment, but didn't want to sit down anymore. She just wanted to stay away from him. This man is vicious and cunning, he looks at her like teasing his prey, she must be vigilant. Mom, I'm full, I'm going back to my room first. Musa restrained her mind and tried to calm herself down. The repulsion shown by the girls is palpable. Murong Cheng's deep eyes narrowed slightly, the dark light floated, and the curvature of the corner of his mouth became more and more meaningful. Bai Wei was looking for traces of mice in the dining room, and said, leave the bowls and chopsticks alone. I'll clean them up later. Your wound hasn't healed yet. Go upstairs and rest. Musa turned around and walked towards the stairs. As a result, Murong Cheng also stood up. Musa quickened her steps without even thinking about it. Avoid the man behind you like a snake. The man was tall and had long legs, so he followed with ease in a few steps, and grabbed Musa, who was about to rush into the room at the corner of the stairs. What are you doing? Musa's hairs stood on end, and said anxiously, let go. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 28. What's the matter? Zizi, such a big reaction. Murong Cheng pulled her closer to him, and asked her with a smile. He still calls her Zizi. Muzi I was confused by Murong Cheng. What the hell is going on with him? Have you seen through her? Or, was she actually being too sensitive? Maybe Murong Cheng just felt that his sister had changed a lot, so he just teased her a few times. Muzi I clenched her hands tightly and looked at Murong Cheng nervously. Did I react too much? It's obviously my brother who has been scaring me. She bit her lip, feeling aggrieved. Knowing that she was faking it, Murong Cheng relaxed his strength, turned her wrist over, and said, "Why are you nervous? I just want to see your wound." There was a scarlet scar on Shui Baihao's wrist. When she cut her wrist, she took advantage of the strength of alcohol and struck very ruthlessly. Although the wound was stitched up, there was always a centipede mark on her wrist, which was extremely ferocious. Murong Cheng lowered his eyes to hide the pain in his eyes. "Do you still have contact with that little boy?" he asked. Muzi I looked blank. "Who?" Murong Cheng let go of her hand, and said lightly, "It's that little boyfriend you chased after for a year, finally got it, and broke up in less than a week. I heard that boy is a network administrator? You went to the internet cafe every day during that time, sometimes you don't come home all night, causing mom to come to you from one internet cafe to another, and almost call the police." Having said that, he paused, and looked at Muzi I jokingly. "I found you at the police station once, and you and a gangster outside smashed a car on the side of the road with a broken wine bottle in the middle of the night, and were arrested by the police. And because you are underage, your mother brought you back." Muzi I was dumbfounded by Murong Cheng's words. With Murong Cheng's aloof character, he was willing to waste time talking to her for such a long time. And, how did she feel a strange sense of disobedience? It's as if, he said that on purpose, in order to reveal enough information, so that she won't reveal her secrets outside. This conjecture was too unbelievable, and was immediately rejected by Muzi I in his heart. Murong Cheng had no reason to do this. "Did you hear that? Don't contact those people again." Murong Cheng saw her in a daze, and stretched out his hand to pinch her small face, making it smooth and tender. Muzi I slapped that hand away. "Got it? I don't even have a mobile phone, so how can I contact you?" Murong Cheng didn't care, and rubbed her head instead. "I'll take you to buy a new one later. Speak as you speak, and do what you do with your hands and feet." Muzi I frowned and tore off the hands on her head. She was very uncomfortable with the intimacy shown by Murong Cheng, and even felt that the current situation was not as comfortable as tit for tat before. "I'm going back to my room." Muzi I broke away from him, turned around and left. In the end, Murong Cheng raised his arms, slammed against the wall, and blocked her way. Muzi I was dumbfounded. Is my brother, Bidong's own sister, really suitable? Ah! I didn't finish my sentence. "Why are you running?" He was like an ancient bully teasing a girl from a good family, and asked with a low smile, "Why did you go to the front today, eh?" The slender and strong arms formed a tight angle with the wall. Once she spoke, the man's clear breath almost sprayed on her face. "Even for siblings, this is too much." "I'm here to ask you to have breakfast," Muzi I replied angrily. She clenched her fists and thought, if Murong Cheng behaved excessively again, she would definitely beat him up. However, Murong Cheng straightened up immediately and let her go. "Don't go to the front again." Murong Cheng stared at her with dark eyes like ink, as if warning, "and don't have any contact with those from the Mu family." After he finished speaking, he raised his thin lips evilly, and patted her head. "Zizi, you have to be obedient." After Murong Cheng left, Muzi I stood there for a long time but couldn't recover. She looked at the direction Murong Cheng was leaving, covered her heart and murmured, "Madman." You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 29. Friendly reminder, it seems that some readers don't know that my previous article has been overhauled. You can remove the book from the bookshelf and clear the cache, and then re-add it to the bookshelf, and you can read it normally, otherwise there will be a problem that the text cannot be connected. Among the crisscross overpasses, there are tall buildings. There is a constant stream of traffic. Huamao building stands like a tall giant in the core area of the business district of Qingjiang City. Standing by the floor-to-ceiling window, Wang Zhan caressed the smooth desktop with his fingers, and said in a proud tone, "A full set of Italian high-end office furniture, open office area design, artificial three-dimensional green wall, German planting technology, and fully automatic drip irrigation system imported from Israel. Health and environmental protection." He raised his hand and knocked on the floor-to-ceiling glass window again. The bulletproof glass is specially tempered to prevent fire and heat insulation. Even if it is a Barrett M82A1 sniper rifle, there is no need to worry at all. After giving a general introduction to the office, Wang Zhan looked at Murong Cheng with a face full of credit, as if written on his face, "Come praise me, praise me." Murong Cheng walked to the window and looked down at the city with a cold and indifferent expression. "Did you find Huang Logui?" he asked. The smile on Wang Zhan's face froze instantly. "It's Huang Logui again. I'm really afraid of what will happen. He can finish everything smoothly, but this old man Huang left a stain on him, making him seem incompetent." "No," Wang Zhan lowered his head. "Boss Jia has dealt with this kind of people for many years, and he probably knows more than Huang Logui." Murong Cheng's deep black eyes looked at the distant scenery, and his deep voice was slightly cold. "Tell him, I have something urgent to do. It doesn't matter if you employ people, even if they are not as famous as Huang Logui." Wang Zhan raised his heart and asked, "Master, what happened to Su Xian's body?" Darling, they spent a lot of money for this body, not to mention their painstaking efforts, so don't let anything go wrong." Murong Cheng frowned slightly, and said lightly, "Su Xian is fine, but I suspect that the ceremony failed, and the spirit body entered the wrong Horcrux." Wang Zhan opened his eyes wide, and then asked cautiously, "Master, how sure are you?" He was silent for a while, and said, 7 or 8. 7 or 8 points. That said, almost certainly. Wang Zhan's complexion was a little bit bad. If any body can be used as a Horcrux, why did we bother at the beginning? Huang Logui wouldn't make so many demands on us. As the saying goes, what pot should match the cover? If it doesn't match completely, just install it hard. I'm afraid there will be problems." Murong Cheng's eyes were gloomy. What Wang Zhan said was also a worry in his heart. "Master, don't worry, I'm going to find Boss Jia to ask for someone." Wang Zhan solemnly issued a military order, "Unless Huang Logui escapes abroad, I will dig the ground and find him." Just as he finished speaking, Murong Cheng's cell phone rang. "It's Bai Wei's call." Wang Zhan glanced at it and immediately fell silent. Murong took the call. "Mom, what's the matter?" "Rong Cheng, where are you? Come back quickly. Mu Lingfei said that Zizi hurt her mouth and wants your elder brother to uphold justice. I'm really worried that they will bully Zizi again." Bai Wei's voice was anxious and panic, showing helplessness. Murong Cheng frowned, and replied, "I'll go back now." He hung up the phone and hurried out. Wang Zhan hurriedly followed. "Master. This office. I haven't finished reading yet. My sister has something to do. You can handle the company's affairs by yourself." Murong Cheng said the next sentence. He had already entered the elevator. Wang Zhan was separated from the elevator door and froze for a long time without reacting. When did Grandpa have a younger sister? How has he never heard of it? On the other side, Bai Wei put down her phone, turned around and held Mu Zi's hands tightly. Zi, don't be afraid. Your brother will be back soon. Mu Zi silently rolled her eyes. She thinks that Bai Wei is really exaggerating. As for, isn't it just a quarrel between children? At most, it's just being scolded, not to mention, it's not certain who is being scolded. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HhandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 30. Mu Rongxian was widowed in his early years, and only had two daughters, Mu Yun and Mu Ling, and he always loved them very much. Now he asked his servant to invite Mu Zi over, obviously to seek justice for his daughters. Bai Wei was afraid that her daughter would suffer, and insisted that she wait for Mu Rongcheng to come back before going. Mu Zi snorted. Wouldn't Mu Rongcheng go home in the middle of the night? Even if he really rushed back now according to Bai Wei's request, how long would it take on the way? What if there is a traffic jam? Mu Zi repeatedly told Bai Wei that nothing would happen, and then followed the servant to the front villa. Along the way, the servants looked at her with sympathetic eyes. Mu Zi had a calm expression on his face, with a slight smile in his clear and bright eyes, cute, as if he didn't know that he was about to face a catastrophe. The servant sighed silently in his heart, oh, Miss Mu Zi is going to be bullied again. The servants of the Mu family all know that the sisters of the Mu family are arrogant and domineering, and whoever offends them will be in great trouble. When Mu Zi walked into the living room, he felt a hostile gaze sweep over him. She didn't need to think about it, she knew it must be Mu Ling, and the person next to her who was gloating at her misfortune was Mu Yun. Mu Zi didn't pay attention to these two people, and focused on the man sitting on the sofa. Mr. Mu has been a romantic person all his life, which has caused a huge difference in the ages of his sons. The youngest, Mu Rongcheng, was only 24 years old, while the eldest of the Mu family, Mu Rongxian, was over 50 this year. He is well maintained, with a slightly fatter figure and a smile on his face. He looks like a kind elder. Zizi Mu Rongxian beckoned to Mu Zi, and asked with a warm smile, have you recovered? Mu Zi pursed her lips, and smiled cautiously, it's better. Mu Rongxian said, during this period of time, I have been holding meetings in other provinces, and I just found out about your affairs. In the future, don't do stupid things anymore. If you are wronged outside, you should tell your family members. You can't make fun of your own life. He didn't say a word about his daughter's injury. Sitting on the side, Mu Ling was very dissatisfied, and coquettishly pushed Mu Rongxian with his elbow, but his father gave him a stern look back. Mu Ling pursed her lips, her face full of displeasure. Mu Zi pretended not to see it, and said softly, I made everyone worry. Although these people don't care about Mu Zi's life or death, she still has to say what's on the surface. Mu Rongxian really showed a smile, like a loving father, you are young, it is inevitable to be impulsive, as long as you are fine. The voice paused, glanced at the two daughters beside him, and then said, Mu Ling broke his lip a few days ago, and the doctor said that if it was heavier, his teeth might loosen too. Your little girls, every family, when we are at home, some small quarrels are always unavoidable, but if you do it, it will be a bit outrageous. After Mu Rongxian finished speaking, he silently looked at Mu Zi with a somewhat stern look in his eyes. Fortunately, he is the director of the general office, and his words are polite first and then soldiers, and they are both kind and powerful. Mu Zi opened her deer-like eyes, confused innocently, and murmured, Mu Ling fell so hard. Stop pretending. Obviously you pushed me. Mu Ling yelled in anger at her innocent appearance, and pulled her injured lips. Blood gushed out from the split wound, and she wailed in pain. Mu Zi was frightened, and took half a step back. She raised her hand and said, Mu Ling, my wound has just healed, and I can't use my wrist strength, so it's impossible to push you. There was a lot of trouble about Mu Zi getting drunk and cutting his wrists outside, and the entire Mu family knew about it. Her skin is white and delicate, but the scar on her wrist is bright red and ferocious. In contrast, her arm looks more slender, as if it would break if she folded it lightly. How could she overthrow Mu Ling, who is obviously taller and stronger than her? No one believed it, including Mu Rongxian. Mu Ling anxiously pointed at Mu Yun and shouted, "Sister saw her push me with her own eyes."